everyone. Welcome back to Absolutely. We are currently going to film an episode of Absolute Comics, which will either be a bonus episode or the episode if there's nothing else to talk about for the week again. I'm Benny. I'm Benny from Comic Story, and that is Sal from Comic Pop. We get together on a weekly basis, normally every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, to chat about the latest comic book news, comic book movie stuff, video game stuff, all that fun jazz, all that other stuff. And today we're going to be talking about pseudo half Absolute Comics episode. But basically, I'm going to tell Sal what's going on in Venom because I just read all of Venom. And I am now about to make a video about this, Sal, because I read... Okay, so I'll give you the quick rundown what the video is going to be about, all right?
Yeah.
I read Marvel the way Marvel wants you to read Marvel, Sal.
Yeah?
Do you know what I mean by that?
Well, I assume it means you have to read everything.
Everything. And buy it all and get caught up. So I started this experiment by deciding that I was going to read all of Fall of X because you and Rob and Alex have all told me Fall of X is confusing and convoluted and bullshit. But if you read it all, it's amazing. Or at least the important bits. By the way, I want to tell you, I finally read all of Uncanny Avengers, and that was probably my favorite book in the entire Fall of X. And it's not important at all to Fall of X, but it's awesome. I actually really enjoyed that. You were wrong.
I think it sucks.
But you only got 2 issues in. It goes in a really good direction.
All right. I don't give
It's very expected. I will say that. It's very expected.
I can't afford to do that.
So
be like, 5 issues into it and it gets good. Like, no.
No. It gets good at issue 3, actually. Issue 3, they kind of like bring it all to head as to what's actually going on. What is Captain America's stance on Fall of X? How does the world view the X-Men? What does this have to do with Krakoa? Like,
right.
Basically, you dropped it before they put it all together.
Yep, gotcha.
But anyway, so I did Fall of X, and that ended up costing me about $250 to read it the way Marvel wanted. And what I decided to do is by reading it by how Marvel wanted, anytime the book referenced something else, go catch up on that book.
Yeah.
So with Fall of X, all it's doing is referencing each other. So it cost a bunch to get all of Fall of X together.
Totally.
So after my Fall of X experiment, I've been reading Venom, but I was behind on Venom.
Makes
okay.
sense.
And now that I've caught up on Venom, I read it the way Marvel wanted me to read Venom.
Uh-huh.
So let me explain what's going on with Venom. When you last read Venom, what was Venom at? What was he doing?
He left to become the King in Black. I read a little bit of Al Ewing's book and I went, nope, this isn't for me. I'm not interested.
So Al Ewing's book, issues 1 through 13, picks up with that. He is the King in Black and his son is the new Venom.
Yep.
The story is every other issue swapping between the two of them.
Yes.
Eddie dies in like the first or second issue.
Okay.
He dies.
What?
Yeah. Eddie dies outright. He's burned in a building. He's gone for good.
Oh.
And someone's been manipulating what he can do as the King in Black. Eddie awakens at the equivalent of the end of time for Venom.
Yeah.
Where he sees 6 different versions of Venom at the end of time.
Okay.
And he doesn't understand what's going on. He's basically told that at some point in his life, he will be each version of this, and that's what's going to be happening. Issues 1 through 13 is very confusing, and you don't know what's really going on, but is trying to lead you into that direction.
Right.
While this is going on, Dylan is meeting up with Normie, which is, if you don't know, the Red Goblin right now.
That I'm familiar with, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
which is an idea they've almost done nothing with, but he keeps popping up because they really want this to be a thing.
Yeah.
Because he showed up, Red Goblin shows up in the Venom book. He also has his own book, and he was in somebody's crossover recently. Miles.
Yeah.
He was in Miles' crossover with Carnage Reigns. He was in Carnage Reigns.
Okay. I remember him showing up in, I remember Normie becoming that during some event. Like some Spider-Man story. Like, I remember him becoming it, and then I remember him, like, re-becoming it. Or him... Normie becoming friends with Dylan and that being a whole thing. Right.
Once he became friends with Dylan, he became Red Goblin. Before that, it was like, well, you got a red symbiote after Norman Osborn had it. It was like a thread that Dan Slott left and just ignored.
Yeah.
So anyway, 1 through 13 is covering that. It's establishing Dylan's run as Venom. Dylan is mad at Eddie because he thinks Eddie died and abandoned him. Eddie is traveling through time, doesn't know what's going on. Issues 13 to 16, this is where we get to the way Marvel wants you to read it, is a part of Dark Web.
Oh, God.
So 14, 15, 16 are all Dark Web related. Venom goes back to Dark Web, has his memories pulled out. He becomes the character known as Bedlam, which is Red Venom.
Right.
But not Carnage Venom, just Red Venom.
He's Venom, but red. Yeah. And bigger. Yeah.
Bigger. He battles against Dylan Venom. and is involved in dark web. Now, if you're reading Marvel the way they want you to read it, that means that you're also getting involved in dark web. So you need to also be reading Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men at the time. There's a Miss Marvel book, because
I read dark web, and that's
but I'm just, for our viewers' sake, I'm explaining what
but
you're
in that
supposed to
one
pick up.
also Eddie is in it, and he's Venom from like the 90s again for some reason.
Right, that was the whole point. Oh, we're gonna make you Eddie from the 90s, which I thought was gonna be a longer lasting thing, but as soon as dark web ended, that was over.
Right. Okay. So that was a request. Like that was clearly like Zeb Wells is like, I want to have 90s Venom in here for some reason.
Well, what they do is 90s Venom Bedlam goes off and becomes like the leader of a biker gang.
Okay.
And then because he's time traveling and half dead, Eddie figures out how to make a human symbiote. He becomes a human symbiote because he's not, what he's been doing is traveling through time through his consciousness, dropping into things because he's a loose consciousness.
Right,
but he figures out how to take whatever symbiotes in that era and reformulate himself.
Yes. Okay.
So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, which is like a 6-issue spread.
Okay.
Picks back up with Dylan just being mad at Eddie. And we follow Eddie through time, where he basically learns to become a human symbiote. And he basically goes and battles against Bedlam, the 90s Venom, absorbs him, so he now has him involved in him. This is where it's starting to get convoluted, starting. He also goes to the end point of time, but not his end point, to Kang's end point. Learns how to properly time travel from Kang. Doesn't know how to do it properly. Goes to Latveria, tries to steal Doom's time portal, goes through time with Doom. They end up in the Cretaceous period, fight a T-Rex Venom. Then they go to World War II, where Venom and Doom are buddy copying, but Doom's mad at Venom. They discover another symbiote in that era being controlled by the U.S. forces, and that symbiote was supposed to assassinate Hitler. But Eddie stops that assassination, goes to Doom, tells Doom that they fucked up time. What are they ever going to do? Doom now wants revenge on Eddie. Back through time we go.
Okay. All right. Because I remember, like, I think Cates was the one who was like, "Oh no, there have been symbiotes and stuff like that." So that there being a like weaponized symbiote in World War II tracks as far as like the retcons that like we've had symbiotes for years and we're using them in warfare and stuff like that.
Right.
That's fun.
Then issue 22, we go back to Dylan, who is working with Venom still, mad at Eddie. They discover this World War II symbiote that got left behind, and he got awoken. World War II symbiote's whole goal is to battle against Eddie, who now Dylan, since he's mad at Eddie, agrees with. And we discover that Doom, after Eddie manipulated the World War II symbiote, is now using it as like a sleeper agent to get against Eddie.
Okay.
Enter issue 23. Everything I just told you doesn't happen. Issue 23.
What, do they throw it away, or does he go back in time and change it?
No. Issue 23 doesn't feature Eddie. It doesn't feature Eddie. It doesn't feature Doom. Doesn't feature Kang. It barely features Dylan. It is setting up another story.
Oh, why?
It's setting up Black Widow as a symbiote user.
Oh, yes. And I remember that being a thing.
Right. No, hold on. Because now 24, we forget that happened. 24, we go back to Eddie.
Oh my God. It's so stupid.
And I want you to know, Al Ewing didn't write 23. 23 is written by Torun, the one who's writing Carnage.
Oh, Grombeck?
Yeah. Who's writing Carnage. She wrote 23. 24, we go back to the Eddie plot with Al Ewing. Okay?
Yeah.
Eddie decides that now he's got all this power, decides to go and like end the entire battle, going back to the end of time Venom point to fight against Meritus, which is the ultimate end of time Eddie, because he discovered that there's an Eddie after Meritus.
Okay.
And Meritus' ultimate goal, either it's revealed here or revealed in a few issues, is to prevent going past Meritus. Meritus wants to be the final Eddie. The one afterwards is the true end of time Venom, and he doesn't want that to happen because then he's gone.
Yeah.
So that plot's revealed in 24, 25.
Okay.
26, I hope you weren't tracking that, because now we're going to go back to another plot.
Right.
Okay. And I want you and everyone else to be aware, Venom's a monthly release.
Right. So you gotta wait. And so you could be like, oh man, there's like, maybe I really like this time travel plot. Well, we're not going to do that right now.
So 26, 27, 29 is written by all three of these issues. Torun, Grun, whatever. I can't pronounce her name and I don't want to butcher it because I actually like what she's writing.
Oh, okay.
So it's written by her, and it's Dylan, Red Goblin, and Black Widow symbiote teaming up for a mission.
Oh, great. Okay.
So we're teasing Black Widow symbiote stuff again.
Sure,
So
yeah.
now 23, 26, 27, 28, and 29 are this plot.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, when I'm telling my brother to write it so we could cover Venom, I'm like, skip 23. We're gonna do that with the other ones.
Right, we'll put that with the other one. Yeah, because there's 2 stories.
So if you are you lost yet as to where we're
I
going?
mean,
'Cause
yeah, it does
it gets worse.
oh, great. I
That's
mean, it feels like it. Like, it's just yeah. Okay, keep going.
it gets worse. And I want you to know this was supposed to be my palate cleanser post
Yes.
reading Fall of X.
Oh, yeah, yeah, read Venom because it, makes sense. It's like, "Oh, Venom. He's an uncomplicated character. That'll be fun."
Okay, 30 almost lost me in its entirely. I could not track what was going on because it's a pseudo recap, pseudo Doom having long conversations with Kang about what is going on.
Yeah.
So they're just traveling through time again, pretty much going like, right, it's been 4 months since we did Time Travel Eddie. Let's kind of catch you up. But we also don't
Yeah.
want to stall the plot. So
No.
we're gonna do both at once.
Okay, that's cool. That's smart. I mean, it's Al Ewing. It's like it makes sense at least to him. Like he's
Yeah.
tracking it. It's just also like why?
31 is where it gets worse.
Okay.
Eddie, as now a symbiote born human being, goes to finally confront Meredith and supposedly end this plot. He wants to stop Meredith from becoming the end Venom because he will kill Dylan. And that's the whole point. He's trying to prevent that from happening.
I see.
Goes to fight Meredith. The big final battle is going to happen. Meredith is ripped in half as Carnage as a god rises out of him.
What? Now I know there's like a lot of carnages or some crap. Like it's not like it's Cletus, is it?
No, it's Cletus.
Oh, okay, great.
So you're probably like, how the hell? I
Right.
was too.
He didn't because he doesn't come up in the entire run.
They never once mentioned Cletus or Carnage or any. It's never brought up anywhere.
Awesome.
It is then continued in Carnage. It's a crossover with Carnage called Symbiote Necrosis or something along those lines.
Okay.
So I go, okay, I guess I have to read Carnage now to know how the hell we got to here.
Sure.
So I Google Carnage. Well, you know, there's 3 books just called Carnage.
Yes.
So I had to figure out which book. Well, conveniently, there is one written by Torun. I can't pronounce the last name, but you know who I'm talking about. At this point.
Grombeck, yeah.
No. She's writing the current one. Okay, so we must be doing this. So
Right.
we'll read that book. Okay, now we're going to Carnage. Now in Carnage, Carnage has been rejected as a god by some library full of gods and has decided that he will go back to Earth.
Okay.
And he
Good.
will prove that he's a god by becoming invincible. His
All right.
only weakness is anti-venom, Flash Thompson, who is also a human-born symbiote now because his body is dead.
Right.
If you didn't track that during everything. So if you
Yeah,
you really
right,
wanted to
right.
know what's going on, you now have to go back to the revival of Agent Venom. But
Yes. Yes, that's true.
do you remember what happened with Agent Venom?
I remember he died, and I remember he came back, and I remember them not really explaining it very well, and him just being like, "I'm back, and I guess I'm Agent Venom now again,
Well,
and I'll just do that."
so the concept of him being brought back was that if the venom has been attached to you, it has your codex.
Yes, yes, that's right. And that happened in King in Black, yeah.
Right. So it happened to King in Black. And with the codex, they were able to kind of make these human symbiotes, which is basically you look like a human, you act like a human, but you are just a symbiote,
Yes.
which is what Eddie's become and apparently Cletus.
Yeah.
So the book is 4 issues of Agent Venom tracking down Cletus Cassidy,
Yes.
who is trying to do a series of murders to draw Agent Venom out
Mm.
because he wants Agent Venom to use anti-venom on him so he can build an immunity to it. So he can become a
Okay.
true god. Okay.
Okay.
On board with this. By issue 3, because I'm wondering where Cletus came from, it's not Cletus.
No.
There is still Cletus.
Okay.
And this carnage goes to old man Cletus.
Okay.
They have a discussion about how Carnage is just Carnage pretending to be Cletus, and the
Right.
real Cletus is just sitting on a throne of dead bodies.
Okay. Okay.
And then Carnage tries to eat him, but Cletus poisoned his blood so that Carnage couldn't eat him. And then Carnage rips out Cletus's skull and gets all of Cletus's memories. So he's basically Cletus again.
Okay. All right. All right.
But he's another human symbiote. This is the thing they're doing now.
Right, right. They're it sounds like they're trying to get I mean, outside of like Black Widow and stuff, they're like anyone who has a symbiote is actually just going to be a symbiote.
That's where it's becoming at this point. It's what it seems
Which I
like.
hate, but like, all right, go for it.
Well, Dylan's still just a person in a symbiote.
He's
Black
just
Widow's
wearing
still, and so is Red Goblin. Like they're the
right.
traditionals.
Yes, yes.
So that's what makes it very even more confusing. These new rules.
Sure, of course.
So then I almost can guarantee that the Carnage Venom crossover was not planned. Okay.
Right. It was probably encouraged by Marvel.
Right. So what happens is issue 4, Carnage literally puts Flash Thompson on a shelf. He creates a box, puts him in there so he's over there, and literally goes, "Oh, Eddie Brock is traveling through time. I can do that too." And then he ends up at the end of time bursting out of Meredith.
I love it. Okay. And that's the explanation for that.
Right. So he bursts out of Meredith. This now brings us to a crossover, which is a weird crossover because both comics are covering the same information.
Right.
So you go to Venom, where Carnage is chasing Dylan, and we see it from Dylan's point of view. And if you read the Carnage tie-in, it's the exact same fight, incident, and everything, but from Carnage's point of view.
Oh, all right. That's fun.
So we get to see all of this happening, and we discover Carnage is at the end of time, battling against all of the Venoms, destroys Meredith, destroys Symbiote Eddie. They're dead.
Yeah.
Other Eddies attack Carnage. Carnage can't fight them all. Symbiote Eddie is apparently able to reconstitute himself, and so is Meredith, even though they're just destroyed at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, okay, so Meredith is still here. We're going to finish Al Ewing's plot because we just removed Meredith for 2 issues. Like, to do this Carnage thing, you know?
Yeah.
So the Carnage thing resolves with no plot significance at all.
No.
Carnage reconstitutes back in his timeline. Eddie and Meredith are remade. We're literally back to where we started.
Right.
But if you read it the way Marvel wants you to read it, you got to go to Carnage and you got to read all that shit. Which I hate to admit, it worked. Now I want to know what's going to happen to Carnage and Agent Venom.
Yeah, well, if you're in there already, like if you're reading all this,
it straight up worked. I hate to admit it, but it did work.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt also that like you're excited by what's happening. It's not like with X-Men where it's like, yeah, it makes sense. It's just that you don't like it.
Well, after reading it all, I liked X-Men, but I had to read it all.
Yeah, but this is like
too much implied stuff.
Right, but why is this the plot for Venom? Like, what are you doing?
Well,
like, why is Venom a cosmic god?
So it gets even worse because of Blood Hunt. So issue 33 resolves Carnage, and he's like, "All right, me and Meredith, we're gonna go back to our fight and see what's going on. Hold on, we have an event to do." Then issue 33, we cut back to Dylan and Venom after Carnage killed Dylan. Yes. Venom has retreated, decided that Dylan died, even though the book literally says Venom healed Dylan.
Right.
Like, that is literally what happened. But for some reason,
Eddie's like, no, he's dead.
No, Venom thinks he's dead. Eddie and Dylan know that he's alive, but Venom, after healing Dylan, is like, Dylan died and it's my fault. And it's like, you just healed him.
Maybe he's just feeling guilt for letting him die in the first place. Like, I healed him, but he still died on my watch.
Maybe that's what exactly. They don't go into it because his answer is, I need to find another host, but I killed Dylan and Eddie's wherever. I can't find Eddie. You know who still is viable? Lee Price.
No.
So the book now is Venom going to the grave of Lee Price. Lee Price is a zombie.
Yeah.
He's trying to go to Venom, and he has his own weird symbiote abilities. Venom is questioning what is going on with the zombie symbiote Lee Price.
Uh-huh.
And then we discover there's another villain because of Blood Hunt, which is an ancient vampire that understands symbiotes.
Right, of course.
And he was using the body of Lee Price to summon Venom.
Oh, God. Okay.
So that's where we are now. This random villain is now affecting Venom and Lee. And it's like next issue, Venom rebonds with Lee Price. And it's
no.
So he's going to bond with a zombie Lee Price instead of just doing our plot in Venom?
Right? Well, then it would end. What's now is Al Ewing writing all that, or is that Gronbeck?
No, let me see who's writing that one. I don't know who's writing the tie-in stuff.
Right? Like, I imagine that Ewing's like, no. Just I'll come back.
Because he didn't do the Gronbeck stuff for that already happened. So I'm assuming No, it's Al Ewing. Al Ewing
Oh
is
my
writing.
god. Okay. All right.
What are they paying him to, like, by the way, we need you to throw in
Yeah.
vampires
Right.
somehow.
Also, do a tie-in and stop what you're doing.
They got a different artist, so I don't think the artist was on board at all with this.
Good. Well, maybe the artist like is working on the later story.
Yeah, maybe they're moving forward with the story because I'm assuming that's why Grandbat came in and like they got behind or something.
Yeah. I mean, it could be.
The art is more like here. Let me show you this. This is zombie symbiote Lee Price.
Mm-hmm.
Zombie symbiote Lee Price. This is the art.
Yeah. All right. I mean, like, but that's real Venom on it, though.
No, Venom's here. See?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, Venom's there. So this is like that's why Venom's like, what are you doing? I think he calls him a zombie symbiote.
Mm-hmm.
Try to that I remember.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Zombieate.
A zombie.
Right? It's a zombie symbiote. A zombieate.
Genius. Oh my god. Cool. Oh
and then you have this guy right here, and he's like, "Oh, the Clinters have been around for a while." That's it, the captive. That's
the
his
captive. Name. Okay.
I don't know. Is he somebody from like ever?
He's new. I think he's from like the the group, the merry band of bad guys that they were invented for the story.
Okay, just making sure because like I don't know who the hell that was. I'm like, okay.
No, I think he's new.
So, and I'm pretty sure Al Ewing is writing Venom War. Which is
makes sense. Yes,
which is what I think we're leading into.
Venom War is going to be the thing you're talking about. Like that's heading towards. Yes.
Yeah, it's an Al Ewing event. Yeah. So,
but it's also going to be Dylan versus Eddie. That's what Venom War is supposed to be.
Right, which is why I'm confused. Anti-Venom's on the thing too. And so is oh yeah, look at everyone on this now.
Everyone's on it. Yeah.
Except Carnage.
Spider-Man. Yeah. Well, they wrapped up the Carnage plot.
Well, no, Carnage is doing his own thing. Like, I feel like they've ruined Carnage.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, but Carnage has been ruined for a while. Like the idea of him. Yeah.
You got Dylan. This is the World War II symbiote.
Oh, okay.
There's the Black Widow symbiote.
Yes.
I don't recognize. Oh, it's Sleeper.
Yep.
And then you got Red Goblin.
Yeah.
And then it looks like Eddie's got. Oh, these are all the different Eddies. And then Agent Venom. So Eddie, and then Agent Venom.
Nice. Cool.
I like how Eddie's army is just all Eddie.
Just himself. Or versions of him, like versions of what the symbiote did.
Well, it's like this is Bedlam. I think this is Wild Side. I forget who this one is, but because those two haven't done anything. They were there for the fight against Carnage, and they've just been at the end of time. He hasn't become there yet.
Yeah. I mean, this is first of all, this poster by Philip Tan is dope. And secondly, Iban Coelho is a great artist. He did that Marvel Dark Age book, which is great.
This is Meredith.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it's all the Eddie forms fighting against Dylan and
his friends.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't care about any of that. Like, none of that appeals to me at all.
But weren't you a Venom fan during King in Black era up until Al Ewing?
I enjoyed King in Black. That's it. Like, I mean, I liked Venom when he was an anti-hero,
Right.
That's it.
Well,
I mean,
to make this worse, I feel like Marvel's aware they've lost you.
Right.
Like you as a fan, they've lost you.
Oh, yeah, no.
Did you see what's coming out Wednesday?
Is that Lethal Protector or something?
Yeah, like another Lethal Protector book is dropping on Wednesday.
Yeah, they're
doing symbiote Spider-Man style, where they're like, we're doing more from the Venom era that you all liked, because
yes,
no one knows what the fuck is going on with Venom now.
No, and the dude who made it is the guy who invented Venom in the first place. So it's like, yeah, no, I read some of Lethal Protector, but I was like, it's fine. I've burned out on Venom. I was burned out on Venom when Venom had miniseries in the 90s. Like it was just. It's too much, because they don't know what to do with him. And when they do something weird and everything seems like sacrilege, except that nothing is, because who cares? And it's just, yeah, when I see like 1,000 Venoms, I'm like, I don't care. Like at all.
It's so weird. And that's what I wanted to bring this up. What happened to Venom?
Right.
Because it felt like King in Black was the peak Venom. Like we had a weird run. Donny Cates came over, did a great run with Venom that felt like a good progression to the character. And now he's this, none of this lines up with what they're doing with the movies anymore.
Oh no! That's a completely different animal.
Which I love. I love that we have evolved a Venom to another direction.
Yeah,
but where's Venom anymore in this?
Oh no! I mean, well, and maybe that's what Al Ewing's trying to say is that like Venom is many things, Venom is many ideas, but they're all the same character. I mean, like if you go back, I pulled up a list of titles when Venom became a big deal. Like Venom was amazing as a character. Like he blew people's minds. He is people's favorite Spider-Man villain, even though he was only Spider-Man's villain for like a 2-year window. Like it's he is a big deal, right? And then they
He
were like,
wasn't a villain for very long, like a true
no,
villain.
right. And he was really only a villain for Spider-Man. Like he didn't really fight most other characters as a villain. But Marvel could see the financial appeal of Venom. And so they're like, immediately, they're like, okay, Lethal Protector will be our door to making him an anti-hero and thereby making him more money, where we went into the miniseries territory. And they started out as being kind of like, this is the status quo, right? Like he moves to San Francisco, like the movie. He is in this kind of like one place. He meets characters by falling underground and realizing there's a subterranean group of people who live, by gaslight, who are homeless and fighting land developers. Like, who cares? But you had a number of miniseries: Death Trap, Funeral Pyre, The Madness, Enemy Within, Hulk versus Venom was a single issue, which was dumb as hell. The Mace, Knights of Vengeance, Separation Anxiety, Carnage Unleashed, Super Special, Sinner Takes All, and then he fought Rune, which is a character from friggin' Malibu. Along came a Spider, The Hunted, The Hunger, Tooth and Claw, On Trial, License to Kill. Is when they were like, ooh, let's make him into like an agent Venom, where he gets like where he gets a badge, and Shield is like, we're gonna hire you to like become a member of like elite group of people. Seeds of Darkness, Sign of the Boss, the finale, like the Venom agenda. And then finally in 2003 they're like, let's make an ongoing series. Like Venom has been, and in those stories, like he's gotten toxic waste on him and had like 1,000 Venoms out of his back. He's fought the Juggernaut. He's teamed up with characters like Mace that nobody cares about. Like he's done. Venom has never been one thing for long enough for anyone to say that Venom isn't whatever he is at the moment, right? Like Agent Venom. People are like, well, I love Agent Venom. And it's like,
that's my favorite iteration of him. I love Flash Thompson, Agent Venom. Yeah.
Right. Like once in 2003, Venom got like a mini series or an ongoing series when you were able to actually explore like Venom for longer than 3 issues at a time. You were able to then establish who Venom was for the first time in almost 20 years. And honestly, like that didn't even really last very long either, because of course, like
I almost feel like they created Carnage to continue the idea of like an evil symbiote that fights
exactly
Spider-Man.
Right.
Oh, because Venom, they were like, well, we can do so much more with Venom.
There was 2
but
reasons
even Carnage
why
now has his own ongoings and has moved on. And
I know, well, because Carnage,
they've ruined him like they've ruined the Joker at this point.
Oh yeah, no, Carnage. I mean, from the fact that like, and of course we can actually thank Bendis for ruining Carnage, and because in New Avengers, I think 1, Sentry shows up, rips Carnage in half in space, and just leaves him there. And you're like, well, I'm sorry, they killed Carnage. Like they just killed Carnage. And then they're like, oh no, like he's fine. I'm like, there was a guy in there.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if the symbiote survived, but like there's a dude in there. And at that point they were like, oh yeah, no, they're the same, they're merged. I mean, like they said that the suit and here were the same thing in Maximum Carnage, which is literally Carnage's second appearance.
I remember Minimum Carnage.
Minimum Carnage, they shrank him down.
Well, they lobotomized him.
Right, exactly.
So that, okay, well now Cletus is just not there anymore. It's all Carnage.
Yeah. But then they were like, oh no, like Cletus is dead and Carnage is like approximating Cletus. And then it was like some part of Cletus imprinted onto Carnage. And then like, so there's always
somehow
going to be
Cletus's mind got into Norman.
Right. And then that was the thing where like Donny Cates is clearly like, I want to do Venom and Carnage from the 90s. And they were like, you can't. And he's like, fine, then I'm going to have Norman become Cletus. And then he'll be Carnage, and then it'll be classic Carnage versus, and that's absolute Carnage. And it's like, I mean, honestly, what are you even doing? And
I know, but when you get to the point where you're making other villains be Cletus and Carnage,
yes, you've lost.
I forget what their logic was, like why Norman became Cletus.
Yeah, I think it was like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe it was because remember in Spider-Man from Dan Slott, when Norman got the Carnage symbiote, maybe like because Cletus was technically in there, it like imprinted onto Norman or something. I don't remember specifically, but I remember like Norman acted as the like in canon classic original Cletus Carnage.
Yeah.
And then the real Cletus Carnage is actually just like a zombie creature that wants to meet God.
Right. There was like 2 Cletuses going around, 2 Cletus Carnages. Yeah. And then we had King in Black happening, but I think they were still using Carnage outside of that.
They were, yes. Well, because there was also the Jerry Conway Carnage series, and then another Carnage series right after that, and neither of those. I mean, like actually, the Jerry Conway's Carnage series, I think that was much more like Cletus is in the suit. He seemingly can't die, and he's motivated by Cletus' motivations,
Right.
which was a really cool series. That was a great one. But that's all to say that like Venom, neither Venom nor Carnage existed consistently long enough for anything that's happening now to be sacrilege. You can't be like, oh, Venom can't be a time god because it's like, oh, why not? Because like Venom was what? You know, like, because he was.
Well, I mean,
Because what he was.
that's been the problem with all the Carnage, because then we had Axis Carnage, where he's like, "I'm a good guy," kind of,
Oh
and
my
then they
god,
just
yeah,
forgot that existed. And then the big thing they've been doing with Carnage now in all of his books is, okay, well, since we need to make him more than just a psychopath, he's chasing the Darkhold,
right,
and you're like, why?
yeah,
Why is this
yeah.
even happening?
Right, right. Well, and I loved the idea, like when Carnage finds out about Null, that was where I was like, oh, that's fun because like Carnage was, of course, like a nihilist.
Yeah.
Like Cletus Cassidy was like, I don't. I mean, for me, Carnage, you know, Venom when he first starts, he says we because of course, like it's two people, it's Venom and Eddie.
Yeah.
When Carnage was first invented, he said I, and people were always like, and I remember eagle-eyed fans were like, what's going on? And it's like my interpretation, and I think most people's, especially Michelinian creators at the time, were like, Venom, like Cletus doesn't regard Carnage as like an entity. Cletus uses Carnage like a weapon because Cletus is a serial killer.
Right.
And then it was like, no, in Maximum Carnage, we're going to cut Cletus and then it's going to be in his blood. And now he's one and the same. Carnage and Cletus are inextricable. They're the same person at the same time.
Right.
So that's another reason. That's a justification for why he says I instead of we. I mean, that's where it starts. And then you're like, but the real reason why Carnage was even invented was just so we could see Venom and Spider-Man team up.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was the whole thing. Because
yeah.
you want to make Venom more of a hero.
Yeah.
So let's give them a common goal, and we'll do just like when you go back to Venom. I was looking into like, because I didn't fully. I was like, where did Black Widow's symbiote come from?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you look it up, it says it's the birthed by Venom, and then literally someone put a note in there. Even though it has already been established that Venom cannot make more babies, and Venom does not regard her symbiote as a child.
Right.
And I'm
because
like,
of course, Venom was like the point is, like, you know, Venom accidentally gives birth to Carnage when he's escaping the prison when he thought that the Venom symbiote was dead. But then in Lethal Protector, the Life Foundation extracts 5 symbiotes, and they're saying, like, these are all of the babies he can make.
yeah.
And then they kill most of the symbiotes, bring them back, and then kill them again. So you're like,
Well, those ones are always, other than Scream, they're all in a constant cycle of just death.
Lasher, Phage, Riot, like
Scream comes back
Agony,
a lot, and
Scream
Toxin comes back a lot.
And Toxin was another one that was like, oh yeah, that's another baby of Venom. And it's like, guys, I mean, at that point, why don't you just make Carnage have the babies? Like,
Yeah.
but you know, yeah, but because of course they wrongly assumed that if you just make new symbiotes, people will automatically want to buy their stories, which was established in Lethal Protector is not true, except for that one amazing cover. And the reason why Scream even happens is because
for the record, Toxin is also being brought up in the run. By the way, he's.
I mean, good because like I mean, at this point, for me, honestly, like. Do a Venom War because you need to coalesce get every symbiote that has a name in the Marvel Universe in one place and kill 75% of them. Right? Because then
where's Scream right now? She got her own series after the weird Carnage story where Flash Thompson was chasing Carnage.
Yes, yes.
I do like that they've brought back Agent Venom. Mostly.
Agent Venom was the best use of the Venom symbiote and Flash Thompson in like ever since their creation. Like not
the biggest issue is that
like,
Agent Anti-Venom just doesn't look as cool.
He does because he's white.
Yeah.
It's just the same colors but inverted.
Yeah.
But like Flash Thompson being invented to be Spider-Man's bully, brilliant. Having him evolve to be Spider-Man's friend, genius. Then nothing. Like, no good ideas. But then turning him into a Venom character, like especially because we've ruined the Eddie character and we'd have no idea what to do with the symbiote, give it to Eddie or give it to Flash. Moving on. Perfect. No
Well, at
notes.
the time, for those who don't know, when Flash Thompson was brought in, Eddie at that point was pretty much an insane. He had cancer. He was
He
insane.
died.
He died. Eddie just wasn't in his right mind at any
Yeah.
point in the series at that
Well,
point.
because and it's actually kind of fun to like meta think about that because it's like Eddie was created to be an antagonist for Spider-Man. There's a scene, the first appearance of Venom is like a random issue of Web of Spider-Man where Peter's pushed onto some train tracks and it didn't trigger a spider sense. They didn't know who that was. They didn't know that it was going to be Eddie. They didn't have a character named Eddie Brock at all. It wasn't until they invented Venom in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man with David Michelinie that like Eddie was a character. So like as far as Eddie's concerned, he's created to be a mannequin for the alien costume to be on. Right? It didn't matter. That's why his origin is so razor thin. Like, I hated you. I'm tied in with a more interesting Spider-Man story with the Sin Eater, and then I tried to die, and I didn't, and I got the suit, and now I want to kill you. And I have no backstory, and there's nothing interesting about me, and goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then eventually they were like, oh my god, he's so popular, and he's so like economically powerful. Let's make him into an anti-hero, which means we have to give him character. So they established like the ex-wife, they established his parents, his dad, and of course later on, Donny Cates will retcon that he had a son named Dylan. But like even that was so simple and so like two-dimensional, if anything. You got that, and then they were like, well, he's and now it's Venom the anti-hero. Fun, cool, got it. But even that like wore thin. Eventually the sales reduced, mostly because they were doing these awful miniseries with terrible writing and awful art, and it was just like you were diminishing returns with Venom, and so they're like, well, now we know Venom sells, and we're pretty convinced it's just because he looks like Venom, so we don't even need to really worry about Eddie anymore. And so Marvel Knight Spider-Man, where they made Venom Eddie auction the suit off because he had a come to Jesus moment after watching The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
Look it up. He then unalives himself in an alley. That's the story in Marvel Knights, is that he's like, I sold my suit and I died.
And I died. I like the way
and
you
that's
said
it. Right. And then they were like, no, he didn't die. Well, we didn't give Mark Miller permission to do that. Actually, he has cancer and he's gonna die. And it's like, what? And it's like, because that's what we do at Marvel when we don't know what to do with our characters, but we want to give them depth.
Well, like we had the issue where like, because like Rick Remender did an amazing run with Agent Venom, and then like you said, they just brought in bad writers afterwards. The stories weren't great, but they weren't terrible, but they weren't great. They were like middle ground. What is Agent Venom doing?
Yeah.
And then they got rid of that stuff, and then the Agent Venom spun his wheels because, like you said, they want to sell the suit. They want to sell that suit.
That's why they invented Lee Price. Lee Price exists because they were like, well, it doesn't matter who's wearing it.
Yeah. Oh, Lee Price was the most like what?
Oh, Matt Gargan.
Matt Gargan wore it at one point. I forgot all about him.
I mean, just the Matt Gargan use. They were like, that scene in the same book we're talking about, where it's like Matt Gargan gets the suit. He's like, him just going like, look, I mean, I see this as an absolute win.
Yeah.
It's like, even though I look like an orca, it's like Scorpion doesn't sell books, and Venom does, and it doesn't matter who's in it, so make it Mac. And Matt Gargan is one of the longest runs of any one dude in the Venom suit and consistently doing the same thing. Like, Matt Gargan's Venom is one of the most consistent versions of Venom as a character ever. And it's like, and it's so funny because we can't even be bothered to think about that. Like, is Mac in any of the Venom books from Al Ewing? Because it seems like they're bringing like all the hits in. I don't remember Mac even doing anything in King in Black. I think he did, but like,
no, he did. He teamed up with teamed up with Miles, and Carnage was like,
yes,
you're so worthless. Like, you got abandoned by everything.
Right.
Lee was just a garbage idea because it was like, what was it? The way they did it was just like, Venom ditched Flash Thompson to go to a villain again, so we can be an evil Venom again.
Yeah.
Why don't people like this?
Right? Yeah, it's weird, right? Hard to believe that like all this character and development. I mean, even Venom Space Knight. Remember when they went into space and became members of the Guardians?
That one weirdly worked. I don't like. Well, that's where they did the Planet of the Symbiotes. They invented it as Clintar.
Oh, and they said like, oh, they're actually benevolent beings. Like they actually want to help.
Like
people.
that. At first was like, what the hell are we doing? But it actually worked.
Yep. And then Kate's like, no, it doesn't. Retconning.
I'm trying to see who created Lee Price. Mike Costa.
Well, he's prolific.
Yeah. You know what's so great about Lee Price? The wiki has already updated his image to be his zombie.
Nice.
They're not even using his old image.
Good. I mean, it's so his design was like, oh, it's Venom with more edges. Lame.
But yeah, so it's just interesting in the direction that they've decided to take Venom and Carnage.
Oh, yeah, and the symbiotes in general. I mean, like just by virtue of inventing the planet of the symbiotes, dealing with the symbiotes in general, explaining what their origins are, re-explaining them, inventing the King in Black, dealing with that, time travel, World War II / Vietnam veteran symbiotes, like deepening their origins and making them more like expansive is a whole it further advances the Venom brand / symbiote brand into its own office. Like
Yeah.
it used to be like the Spider office had to dedicate some time to Venom. What are we going to do with Venom, by the way? Now it's no, there's a Spider-Man office over there, which deals with 17 different Spider people, and a Venom office over there that deals with 27 different Venoms and symbiotes.
Well, they had Venomverse, which was funny because I was chatting with Alex. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
in Venomverse, Carnage became invincible to everything, including anti-Venom. I'm like, I think we're ignoring Venomverse. I think
guess
Venomverse
so.
is its own thing.
Yeah, never mind Edge of Venomverse. Like there's and Cullen Bunn is a good writer. Like those are solid stories.
I feel
It's
bad
just-
for Cullen Bunn because I like his writing, but he always seems to get stuck on books that Marvel doesn't want to tell anyone about, and they just die off.
yeah, and then they're like, "What? But Cullen Bunn doesn't sell books," and it's like, dude, you don't sell books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. But the Alan Ewing stuff, it's like, yeah, it seems that is it is convoluted as hell. It is completely off the rails, and it's completely consistent with the character. Like that Al Ewing's like, I have license to do whatever I want with this character.
Oh, the fact that he invented 5 other Eddie Brocks.
Yeah, and the fact that they're all Eddie, and that's so funny because you can tell, like, there was even a conversation. You bet there was a conversation where they were like, internally they're talking about, and then I'm gonna have this other version, this other character, and they're like, whoa, 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 we're getting away from Eddie. Like Eddie is the main character, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, fine, then he's everyone. Everyone's
It's all of them.
Yeah, now everyone can have a favorite version of Eddie. Okay, Al.
But yeah,
more.
There's what I find to be weird about the Venom stuff is it kind of shows that sometimes characters shouldn't continue.
Right.
Because like comics work. I'm doing a lot of series on the channel where I just talk about the last 10, 20 years of comics.
Yeah.
X-Men constantly gets soft rebooted, where they finally get what they want, and then it's just
then they lose it.
They lose it all, and then we got to start from square one again, and then they get what they want. Normally it's an island, a city, or a mansion, and then it's gone.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Like whenever X-Men finally achieves their goal of being accepted,
yeah,
or ignoring humanity and doing their own thing, it's gone.
Yeah.
Spider-Man always ends up going back to, I'm out of money, I have no power, whatever. But it's still in line with his character growth. Like we continue to progress that. Batman always goes back to, I can't trust anyone. I gotta go do my own thing. But it does move forward. Like Alfred staying dead, Robot Hand is still around right now. We're still referencing things like Gotham and New 52 and things like that.
Yeah.
But Venom is just one of those things where it's like, why are you continuing? Like, I get I get you're moving it forward, but where you're taking it does not make any sense where this started.
No, like Venom never like retreads. It only goes forward. And even when they like try to capture what it was, it's always still forward.
Yeah. Like with Lee. So like instead of just because like when they brought in Bedlam, I'm like, cool, we're just gonna go back to Lethal Protector Venom. That's how we're gonna do it. His memory is gonna be pulled out, and that's how we're gonna do it. Nope, that's a 3-issue thing, and now we're back to moving forward still.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's nuts.
Just because it can go on forever doesn't mean it should. It's one of those situations. Like I love what's going on with Venom, but how is this gonna end? Like
I don't know, but it won't, is the point. Like, right? Like Al Ewing's run will end, but it's not like he's gonna stop.
Right.
Like, Venom's just going to be in another weird place, and then someone else will either go, I'm going to keep going with that, or they're going to go, nope, he's Frank Castle's
I applaud
Venom
him for continuing. I applaud it for continuing what Donny Cates did.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he is the King in Black. Let's try that. Let's go that way. Let's do more of that.
Yeah. All right. Why not? It's crazy.
So. All right. Well, that's our discussion about Venom.
That's Venom. All about
you
Venom.
should read something next week. I've done twice now. You should. Now that you've already read a lot of it, you should talk about something you like.
That's fair. Yeah, I'll look into it. There's all kinds of stuff out there.
I know. So it's just funny when you read these big runs. I mean, I could do Iron Man. Iron Man would be a fun discussion.
Oh, I know. Iron Man, man. That's
Iron Man. I've never met someone that has had reboots where he loses his money more times than Iron Man
God.
in like 5 years. Like
That's-
every series has to start with, I lost everything.
Can you imagine being at Marvel and just be like, just having to say like, excuse me, if you have an Iron Man pitch, I don't want to hear a single thing about money, or he loses his suit. If I hear he loses, the next words, it better not be money or his suit, or you're fired.
Yeah. Well, it's like my argument when Green Lantern was like, the first thing we're going to do with my plot is they lose their rings. Yeah, that's not been done before. Cool. Like,
well, and also like the fun of it is that they have their rings. Like I want to see what they do with them.
Otherwise, they're just cocky assholes.
Right. There's just some guys. I have plenty of other guys.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed today's bonus AC, possibly the episode of the week. We'll see you next week right here.